Hi, everybody. Welcome to our special Play NJ edition. A look at the Haskell Stakes in New Jersey, Saturday at Monmouth Park. Dave Bontempo, Andrew Champagne, and Bill Gelman with you. Excited. They just had the draw at Monmouth, and so we're ready for this $1 million race and the excitement that comes with it. As we continue, we'd like to ask you, please hit like and subscribe to our videos so that you can be notified of the future ones that we have. Andrew, I'll start with you. We're always excited to be with you. Not only are you the content manager for Katina Media, we know you're a horse racing insider, been a handicapper at Saratoga and all over. We know that your best bet today just hit at Saratoga. Let's talk about this field, Andrew. Jack Christopher and Taiba getting the early money on the odds as expected. Jack Christopher 3-2. Taiba comes in 7-5. What do you think of the odds, and what did you think coming out of the draw?
Well, there's a lot at stake in this particular race. It's the Haskell. It's a grade one. It's a big purse. It is also a win in your in race for the Breeders' Cup Classic later on this year. That's a fees paid berth into a race that often decides Eclipse Awards, including Horse of the Year. So there's a lot on the line here, and it's attracted a field of horses that deserve to be here. We've talked about Taiba, the Santa Anita Derby winner. We've talked about Jack Christopher, who is trying 2 turns for the first time, but has literally done nothing wrong over the course of his career. There's a couple of other good horses in this group. You see Cyberknife, he won the Arkansas Derby. You see White Abario, he won the Florida Derby. There's a lot of talent in this particular race. And while a lot of the betting money is going to go to those 2 horses, if one of them misfires and somebody else sneaks into that exacta, those exactas are going to pay really, really well. Now, whether or not that scenario is likely, we'll dive into and we'll try to figure that out. But it's a good field, and it caps off a really big day of racing over on the Jersey Shore.
Well, let's get to that right away with you, Bill, before we get back to analyzing this field. Andrew, big day at Monmouth Park, a lot of races. Tell us some of the particulars that we're going to see Saturday at Monmouth.
Well, what's nice about this is we're outside. Last couple years, we've been stuck in this thing called the pandemic. And now you got Bob Baffert coming back. Gates are opening at 9 in the morning. 14 race first race is at noon. And what's nice about Monmouth, it has a lot of history to it. There's a Caesar Sportsbook there, so you can combine your baseball betting out of the All-Star break with the horse betting. And this is going to be an historic Haskell because it's the first one where there's fixed odds being offered. So you're going to have different options. There's talk of the Monmouth Bet platform being up in time, and there's no confirmation on that yet. Dallas Baker is going to talk a little bit about that a little later on this. But it's a lot of buzz, and I think because of all the controversy surrounding Bob Baffert and his history with the Haskell, I think that this one has a lot of extra buzz to it, and there's a lot of excitement going on.
Yeah, Bob Baffert is magical. He bought American Pharoah here in 2015, right after that Triple Crown victory. A Monmouth Park record crowd of more than 60,000 people turned out that day. Bob telling us earlier today about those memories. Now, Andrew, let's talk about the pace of this race and the type of track that Monmouth Park is, because the buzz about Jack Christopher is, well, come and catch me. He's the speed horse in this race, but I've seen him rate at some of the mile efforts he had. He can do that if he needs to. Do you think somebody is going to go with him? Do you think a horse like Howling Time, who's been outrun in other races, may at least try to prompt the pace and keep it honest? When you look at the pace scenario for this, how do you see it so far?
So mind you, we're recording this on Wednesday, races on Saturday. We'll see how the track is playing on Saturday. And if you're betting on the Haskell, the biggest piece of advice I can give you, watch the earlier races, see how the track is playing. If front runners win the first couple races on dirt, you probably don't want a closer, and vice versa. Now, do I think there are going to be horses that try to go early? Sure. White Abarrio has early speed. Safi Joseph is known for training speed into his horses, and that worked when Safi Joseph won the Florida Derby with White Abarrio earlier this year. Taiba is a little bit more of an off the pace horse, but don't forget, this is a horse that broke his maiden going 6 furlongs at Santa Anita and doing so in a really fast time. I do think there's going to be a legitimate pace signed on. I do think Jack Christopher is going to be a part of that. Can he get 2 turns? That's the burning question.
I think there's a lot of fascination with it because, he's been a monster at a mile. Now you need him to go a mile and an eighth. And you look at Taiba, he has the Derby distance. Cyberknife has the Derby distance, but their best running kind of peaked out after a mile. So now did that help them being in longer races that maybe there's a little bit more into them that they can play into? And Monmouth is speed favoring. So there's even though you have an 8-horse field and there are some big numbers, I think that we have more variables than would normally meet the eye for a race in which you have 2 stick out numbers.
You do have 2 stick out numbers. We've mentioned this. Taiba is your morning line favorite at 7-5. Jack Christopher is 3-2. We'll talk with morning line odds maker Brad Thomas a little bit later on in the show about what went into that and how he sees those 2 horses. But you're also going to have a couple of proven horses in the 6-1, 8-1 range. And maybe that's where you make your money. You pick one of the top 2, Taiba or Jack Christopher, and you key that horse in exactas with a couple of bigger prices that you like, in hopes that the other one does not fire, because any exacta with Taiba and Jack Christopher is going to pay nothing because you're going to get the top 2 horses on the board. If you're in search of value and you have a strong opinion, key that strong opinion, leverage it with horses that provide value, and see what happens. That's ultimately how a lot of very sharp horse players make their money every single day.
Kind of like Bill, when we talk about how the baseball bettors take a baseball chalk and leverage that in parlays. You get a horse stick out on top, and then you get somebody with him. You and I have been talking about this race for a long time, Bill, and the impact of Bob Baffert and the 60,000 people. Just what have you noticed in talking to the officials and in people around New Jersey and in the casinos about what this Haskell race means for the identity of New Jersey on the racing scene and the identity for Monmouth Park on the major horse racing scene?
Yeah, I just think it's the one time a year where you have a horse race in New Jersey that gets national TV exposure. It's going to be on CNBC this Saturday. So it puts if you go to Monmouth Park, it's just, little park it's in the middle of nowhere. It's an ocean port. It's not something like you're going to take a plane from out of town, say I want to, stop at Monmouth Park. But it's nice that it's the one time a year where we get New Jersey in the national spotlight in the horse racing. It's not on the same level as the Kentucky Derby, Belmont Stakes, the Preakness, or even the Breeders' Cup, but it's still a very big race, and it's the moment in the spotlight. It's like planning for the wedding, and then by Saturday night, before it'll all be we'll start talking about next year. But it's nice. You got some a few big name horses in this year's race, and there's a lot of, like I said before, a lot of excitement coming into it, and we'll see how it all plays out. But I think this is going to be the most exciting Haskell in the last few years because of the horses we have coming in.
Yeah, and the future greatness, Mandaloon wins the Kentucky Derby last year. He then goes and wins the Haskell. We had Authentic in 2020 on his way to Eclipse Award winning status. The top names in the business come through New Jersey this weekend. So as we put an end to this segment, we're happy to introduce you to the Haskell, and we go into the next one. We're going to talk with Brad Thomas about the odds on this race. Brad Thomas, the highly respected odds maker of Monmouth Park, is going to tell us now about how those odds were set up. Brad Thomas, the odds maker for Monmouth Park, is with us. Brad, thank you for joining us. You've got quite a field here between all these stakes winners converging for the Haskell. So tell us a little bit about the odds you set, and what are some of the factors that go into how you set these numbers?
The things I look at are the things that regular handicappers and bettors might be privy to, and the things that they use in their own handicapping to make their wagers, because I'm trying to predict how they will bet the race. It was very close to me who I would make the favorite, Taiba or Jack Christopher. Jack Christopher is a prince of potential. He could be an absolute superstar. Taiba could be as well, but the difference is Jack Christopher has only won one-turn races. Taiba is a grade 1 winner against a good field going 1.1 miles this distance. Jack Christopher is going to have to run an eighth of a mile further than he's ever run before. At the same time, Taiba is trained by Bob Baffert, who owns the Haskell and also is coming back to his training duties. I think the public is going to react to the return of Bob Baffert, period, and the return of Baffert to Monmouth Park in the Haskell. But it's very, very close, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jack Christopher is favored. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of handicappers with a lot of bankroll are backing him ultimately.
I'm glad you mentioned the duty of the public morning line, man, because you're not necessarily predicting who's going to win the race. You're predicting who's going to take the most money. And both of these horses have flashed a lot of talent, but there are also some question marks about both of these horses that we can dive into now. Let's start with Taiba. This is a horse that did not run as a 2-year-old, ran twice before the Kentucky Derby, didn't do much running in the Kentucky Derby, has been off since. Bob Baffert has owned the Haskell Invitational over the years, but are you at all concerned about the layoff or the relative lack of foundation compared to these other horses? It's a really interesting case with him.
There's no lack of foundation with any Bob Baffert horses. They work a million times, not really, but close to it before they actually run. Taiba's foundation was evident by the fact that he was able to win against a legitimate grade 1 field second time out, stretching out from 6 furlongs to 1.1 miles. The issue with the Derby was he was just coming back too quickly off of that. He had done so much so soon that he just wasn't ready for a race like the Derby, which is unique in horses' experience. Layoffs in the modern game are actually good things because these horses build up and build up and build up and are at their absolute best. Trainers in the 21st century have discovered that time off actually benefits horses if they have good foundation and actually gives them a greater chance to win. Trainers in the 20th century, they ran a lot because they didn't mind picking up checks for 3rd or 4th and running every 10 days and winning their fair share. Taiba, I think, will be really, really cranked because you have to believe, and I believe, that Baffert wants to make a statement that he is back. He owns the Haskell. He is not running a horse in the Haskell unless that horse is really, really ready. And Taiba is a really good horse. The way he ran down his stablemate, Messier, at the end of the Santa Anita Derby is an indication that this horse is a major talent.
His primary opposition, and you mentioned this, is Jack Christopher from the Chad Brown barn. Brown, no stranger to success at the Jersey Shore. He maintains a string down there. He's won the Haskell in the past with Good Magic, a very nice 3-year-old from a couple of years ago. Jack Christopher, a brilliant 2-year-old last year, won the Champagne at Belmont going 1 mile, was probably going to be a favorite in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, wound up scratching, missing a lot of time. He's back, has a couple of 1-turn races going to 2 turns. You mentioned this is his first time trying that. Are you at all concerned about his ability to potentially get that sort of route of ground? Or do you think it's a case where he's gotten a sort of similar distance going 1 mile and maybe his talent will carry him through?
Well, Chad Brown is as good as there is at developing young horses. And he's pointed this horse for this race for a long time because he knows that the way 1.1 miles is run at Monmouth Park around 2 turns on a track with tight turns and a short stretch, that's the best chance that Jack Christopher has of getting 1.1 miles and doing it in a grade 1 race with a lot of money at stake. Not just in purses, but in terms of establishing his stud value as a grade 1 winning 2-year-old around 1 turn, and hopefully for those connections as a grade 1 winning 3-year-old around 2 turns. I think that this horse has been cranked to the fullest, just like Taiba has for Baffert. And a lot of times horses with this brilliant turn of foot like Jack Christopher, the first time they run 2 turns, it's the best time they run 2 turns because they don't know what they're being asked to do. They're just out there running free and loose. They don't know that they're being asked to run further than they've ever run before, and they can be kind of fooled. Sometimes these horses actually regress the more they run 2 turns because they realize that's not really what they want to do. I trust both these connections, Baffert and Brown. These horses are both good, and they've both been expertly prepared.
Hey, Brad, we want to thank you for joining us on our show. We really appreciate it. And not only the job you did today, but, one thing about the Morning Line Handicapper is you get the excitement started with people by putting out a number in the middle of the week, and people will speak about that right up until the race. So thank you for that. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, guys.
Okay. Thanks, Brad.
Take it easy, Brad.
Take care, Brad. All right. Play NJ special look at the Haskell. As Bill noted, we're going to have Dallas Baker here to tell us about the big fixed odds debut in a big race at Monmouth Park. Let's go to that. We're happy to be joined by Dallas Baker, the head of international operations for BetMakers and fixed odds in a major race making its debut with the Haskell. And in setting those odds, Dallas, we had a theme that Jack Christopher is a shorter price and Taiba is a larger price than what's on the board. That's our first bit of intrigue. Tell us about that. And you can only get these odds at Monmouth Park for this particular race, right?
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, well, we've got our and good afternoon, everyone, or hello, everyone. Thanks for having us on board, and it is very exciting to have our first $1 million race that's fixed odds betting. We are an outside chance of having our app up and running, so hopefully it's probably more chance than not, but fingers crossed, there is a chance that monmouthbets.com will be up and running for Saturday. If that's the case, anyone in New Jersey can jump on, but if not, anyone on course can have a bet at any one of the windows that are specifically marked fixed odds. But yeah, it is an exciting race. It is a little bit of Jack Christopher versus Taiba. So I guess the chat has been is how short Jack Christopher is. Is that what I'm trying to answer here, gentlemen?
Yeah, the even money for Jack Christopher and 5-2 for Taiba or Taiba, and it was interesting, what you had to weigh to get that, to put that together.
Yeah, look, honestly, Jack Christopher, our modelling has got it a lot shorter than that. We do expect it to start odds on, but we just thought, we want to give the gamblers and the customers a bit of a spoil early on and give a better price to favourite. So we're happy to put it up at even money or $2 in the decimal odds and give people a chance to have a better price early on for Jack Christopher. But we do expect that to shorten into odds on. But in saying that, I'm just literally here at the barrier draw conference function, whatever you want to call it, and Bob Baffert continues to talk up Taiba, and I think that in itself will have a lot of influence on the marketplace. And you're talking about a very high-priced horse. You're talking about a horse that did have a rush campaign for the Derby, but did start 9-2 as one of the favourites in the Derby. So it's very easy to see why there is going to be a pretty serious groundswell for that as well too. But on face value at the moment, it's $2 Jack Christopher or even money and 5-2 Taiba.
So in taking a look at this fixed odds concept, because this is something that is fairly new to American horse racing, not so much for elsewhere in the world, but if you've been to an American racetrack, you have felt the sting of thinking you found something on a horse that's 7-2 or 4-1. You bet it with 10 minutes to post, the gates open and the horse is 7-5. Everybody has been there. This is an innovation that I think a lot of people have been watching with great interest. What sort of feedback have you been getting from people as far as fixed odds at Monmouth are concerned?
I think you've just hit the nail on the head of what I would say is probably the most pleasing thing over the first, 2 or so months of where we've started. And naturally, this is just doing it at Monmouth, on Monmouth only, is proof of concept for us. It's a big step on a journey with many, many, many big steps to it. But yeah, that's been the most pleasing thing, is hearing people, instead of what you were just saying, backing a winner but being unhappy about backing a winner, like coming and seeing something that was 5-2 that goes down to even money, and you're getting a third of what you thought you were going to get or thereabouts. Seeing the people go around and comparing what the tote price started. I got 4-1, the tote went off at 2-1, or I got, even there's been cases it's been 3 times as much as that. And just having that positive vibe is sort of is one of the most important things that we wanted to see. And in this very small sample that we've got at the moment at Monmouth, just betting at Monmouth on Monmouth Park races, that's been the most pleasing thing in the customer feedback. And it's something that's new, that is something exciting. As we often say, it's the game within the game now, is to try to find out what the best price of a horse is, not just trying to find the winner. And it really is you're starting to see people resonate to it. As you said, it's a new thing here, but people are starting to get used to it. And the more you play it, the more decimal odds make sense to you, and the whole process of it makes sense to you as well too. And that's what we're seeing develop here. And that's where we're very excited about taking it to online, because naturally that increases the potential audience exponentially.
Dallas, I've seen at least 70% of the time that the fixed odds price ends up being better than the post-time price. Now, we've got this field at the Haskell. Going forward, and even what you've seen so far, what are the type of races that will provide the biggest disparity and the biggest benefits? Like, say, a $4 horse becoming $8, or somebody getting even bigger value. What type of horses, what type of races lend themselves to those bigger payouts?
Well, straight off the bat, a small field is always, and your numbers about 70% are about pretty much spot on. That's just with the better percentages that's bet with fixed odds, and also no breakage as well too, which normally adds a couple of percent to the tote market. So 70% is about right, but especially in a small field, the tote, whether there's 2 horses or whether there's 14 horses, is always going to end up at around about that 120%, 20% takeout for win and place. But for if it was a 2-horse race, for instance, the fixed odds market is going to be 102%. I mean, for the Haskell, we'll be probably, when it gets down to the nitty gritty, it'll be probably lucky to be 1% a horse. So I would almost say that just about every runner on Saturday is going to be better fixed odds than it is on the tote. Now, and to get further to what you ask about the races, it's quite simple. The more the marketplace spreads out, so the more that we get as we roll out into the online sports bookmakers, which is where this main program heads to, then there's a bigger marketplace. It's more competitive. And then that will lead to itself to be getting even better prices, because not only are we then going to be competing to get people to bet fixed odds, but the bookmakers will be competing against themselves to attract a customer. So if you want to lay a horse that's 2-1, you probably have to make it 5-2. And then if everybody else goes to 5-2, you've got to go to 3-1 to lay it. So, and bigger fields, more exposed races tend themselves to be races that are more competitive from the bookmaker's point of view, and therefore a better price for the customer, the gambler or the punter. So yeah, so basically the higher volume that's held in the race, the more likely a bookmaker is going to be competitive. So you'll see some very, very aggressive percentages from us, from the Monmouth Bets book for Haskell Day, that's for sure. For Haskell Day and also the races around it, because generally they're going to be higher volume holding races.
Well, Dallas, thank you so much for joining us. We've been excited about this. We started to write about it at Play NJ 2 years ago when we first started to talk. Monmouth Park has been excited about their partnership with you, with a nice big tote board that you purchased for them and all the revolutionary moves. So thank you for joining us. So we are looking at the future of horse racing with fixed odds. Dallas, have a great afternoon, man, and a great Haskell.
Yeah, thank you. And everyone have a great Haskell Day. It is one of the great days racing, and hopefully it can be enjoyable for everyone playing.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Dallas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dallas.
All right, that's the look at the fixed odds. In our next segment, we'll break down the race. All right, as we look at our final segment to look at the race, Andrew, you and I can talk horses all day, and I think we will when this is finished. What message would you like to leave in the minds of bettors something that you have specialized in yourself regarding Saturday and the Haskell?
Value, value, value. And whatever your definition of that is, it is. If you like Taiba, for instance, and you're seeing a tote board odds that say 8-5, and you're seeing fixed odds that say 5-2, take the 5-2. You won't write home about turning an 8-5 shot into a 5-2 shot, but that's one of those things where the math checks out and you're going to wind up being a winning player in the long run. By contrast, if Jack Christopher is even money in fixed odds and 7-5, 3-2 on the tote board, that's when you go with the tote board odds. But again, you're taking a chance on that because those odds are likely to fluctuate. Now, from another point of view, as I have said earlier on in this program, if Jack Christopher and Taiba run 1-2 in any particular order, the exact is not going to pay anything. It's an 8-horse field. Those 2 horses are going to take a lot, and I mean a lot of money. Where I think you might want to concentrate if you are an exotics player, the exactas, the trifectas, the supers, key one of those 2 horses with a couple of other horses that you like underneath. And look, full disclosure, I like Jack Christopher in this particular race. I think he makes a lot of sense. I think if he runs his best race, which he should, then the race is going to be for second. I am going to bet that Jack Christopher runs that race and that Taiba misfires. Now, is that a gamble? Yes, for sure. But if Jack Christopher wins and a Cyberknife or White Abario, who have won major races at this distance, show up and run second, all of a sudden, those exactas do not pay badly considering the horses involved. And that is what we call in horse racing an overlay. Finding overlays is how you're going to make your money. Find overlays, bet them accordingly. And whatever your definition of those are, they are. Just take a stance and hope you're right. That's probably the biggest piece of advice I can give you.
I think that's good because at Monmouth, a couple of years ago with Authentic, and you had a chalk 1-2, exacta paid a bag of peanuts. And then last year it would have, except for Hot Rod Charlie was disqualified, and then it was telephone numbers, relatively speaking. Now, in that scenario that you have painted, if the 2 chalks would both end up being 6-5, 7-5, I guess there's a market there. But do you like placing win bets at those odds, or would you think it's nicer to try to take a shot at the exact? I mean, the value would not be on the win line unless you're a guy that loves to slam win bets, but you're not going to get much unless you like someone else to win.
Well, here's the thing. Because when I talk about overlays, the construction of the odds board is very, very important. And we can go into a 3-hour-long dissertation on this, and I'm not going to do that. But if you see a horse that's, say, 2-1, and you think that horse wins more than 50% of the time, 2-1 is a heck of a price. It's all relative. And there are certain flaws you can take and justify with, say, an 8-1 shot, a 10-1 shot, that you're not going to justify at 6-5, 7-5. Look at horses like Taiba, Cyberknife, White Abario. None of those 3 horses ran particularly well in the Kentucky Derby. One of them is going to be a very short price. The other 2, going to be a little bit bigger. It's just a matter of figuring out which sets of flaws you can live with and at what price you'd be willing to live with them at. Because look, if Taiba's 9-2, all bets are off. That's way too big a price. But if you're telling me Taiba's going to be 9-5, which seems about right, there are question marks I have with that horse that I just can't endorse on top. Now, Cyberknife and White Abario, 6-1, 8-1, about those ranges, several times the price. And I think that's where you potentially make your money. You find horses like that. And if one of those horses leaps up and runs second behind Jack Christopher, those exactas are not going to pay badly, especially with a pretty, I don't want to say a heavy favorite because he may well be the second choice, but one of the 2 horses that's likely to take a lot of money is involved. The payoff might surprise you.
All right. And a lot of speculation for a race in which they have 2 stick out numbers, but many variables. And remember, this is the year of parity in the 3-year-old racing circuit. So I'm so glad that we have had Andrew Champagne, content manager of Katina Media, and Bill Gelman. So for Bill Gelman and for Andrew Champagne, this is Dave Bontempo saying, I hope that we talk to you on the other side of our winning tickets. Thank you for joining us. Hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.